You're entering the Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog, the Truist Championship complete slate overview, DK picks, Underdog picks. What else we got? Final bets. We got the weather. We got one and done. Everything you need. Plus, we'll be taking your questions towards the end of the show. And you need to be a sub on Mayo Media Network in order to ask your questions. So please go do that and smash the like while you're here. And I want to hear, who are your two favorite guys in the 6K region this week? If we're going to build some super studs and super duds lineup, maybe those duds aren't so bad. Maybe they're guys that you want to roll with. I want to hear who you are using as your guys down in the $6,000 range. As always, on Wednesday evening, I'll have the complete cheat sheet if you're just looking for random quick tips on what's going on for betting in DraftKings and Underdog, all with the links embedded in there. So remember to sub to that for free down in the description. And if you use code MAYO at Underdog right now, you will get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. Additionally, you will get yourself a free pick in the Pick'em game, which you can utilize at any point for any sport. I recommend using it for golf because it makes golf slightly easier, and golf can be pretty difficult on Underdog, but we'll even go through that and try to figure it out. Toe, Tag, and Tambo on the line with me from shipitnation.com. What do you make of the pricing this week when we go to a course that we haven't seen before?
Don't know if the latter matters as much as the former. The pricing is atrocious. Rory at 12K versus this field. Like, it doesn't even matter, the field. We'll talk about that in a second. But when you have a no-cut event, and the guys in the 6Ks are legit dudes that you can play, and they're getting all 4 rounds and all of that. Rory needed to be like 13-5 here in order for it to make sense. So nothing really adds up either. If you look at like last week, yes, Scotty played against the field. You and I talked about this. There was a chance based on strength of field. He just boat races it and gets it done. But he was 3-1. Rory is 5-1 here. So even from the betting odds, which we'll get to in a second, like nothing really adds up. And then it wasn't really applied the same. So the pricing is interesting, Pat, but we'll be able to break it down and find some ways to get different. A lot of the lineups when we get to DraftKings later are being built the same this week.
So the one thing to point out is for the first 2 rounds, unlike most signature events, they're not playing groups of 2, they're playing groups of 3, and they're going off split tees. So for rounds 1 and 2, there's a gap of 2 hours between the first guy and the last guy on the course, just to try to mitigate some of the weather that's coming in order to that they don't want to have happen this week what happened last week, put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. We looked at it a little bit before too, and the rain on Friday doesn't really matter as much as, because it'll matter for sure, like how the course plays, things like that. But just in general, it seems like the way they built these tee times, I should say, that they'll be able to get it in either way, Pat.
What do you make of the setup for this course? Like, do you have any opinions on how this is going to play, skills to go through? I've done a few walkthroughs this week when Blickel was on with me on the research show. I think he was kind of breaking it down from the perspective of it was going to be firm. It was going to be as fast as possible, because I'm sure that's what the players want too, only because there's a major next week. You want to try to not necessarily mimic exact conditions, but you don't want to go from the Bunny Ranch to the PGA Championship. It would kind of mess with your head that if you get a tournament that's somewhat similar. Jeff even talked about this with the Canadian Open the week before the US Open. It's not US Open rough, but it's also a lot more difficult in terms of rough than it used to be. They did take that into consideration when they were doing the setup. That what would you guess the winning score is here? Because it's going to be wet. Like, we might get lift, clean, and replace for each of the first 2 rounds. It seems like we will most definitely get it for Friday.
Yeah, I'm not really good at targeting things, but I will talk to all of that you just mentioned. Love Alex, think he's an amazing dude, and that was a great walkthrough that he did. I actually was there with our guy Kenny Kim at the DFS Open when he almost tried to get another win. I know it wouldn't be as good as the tournament he won here, but we tried to chase him down in the cart, me and Kenny, to go and watch him in a playoff at the DFS Open. He's a great golfer, so awesome watching him do the overview with you. I think we're going to get a much lower score, though. A lot of the video talk there was around a lot of the setups, like where the ball needs to go and be able to drive it out there, and all of that matters for sure. But it was talks of like higher rough and the greens being faster. None of that is seemingly going to be the case. And you talked about it, Pat, and nailed it. What I think is going to be the case is that it's the week before a major. They're not going to try and just completely derail these guys. They're going to let them go out and get it. So I would expect a lower score than most probably anticipated coming into the week.
All right. I actually just got a response from Michael Kim, who's at the course. I asked him about this week and next week in terms of scoring. I was like, are guys, like, is it going to be tough? Are you guys going to like dice it like completely dice it apart. He said scoring is going to be pretty good. It reminds him of Detroit a bit. It's too early in the year and there's not much rough around the fairways. And if you're a bomber, a lot of the bunkers are very carryable. So that's what Blickel said. If you had a ton of carry distance, you'll be able to get through a lot of these fairway bunkers, no problem. He said at least on the back nine, the front nine. He's playing the front nine today. He's never played a major at Quail, but he does know they made a couple changes. At least he's heard some of the greens are new, which means that they're going to be super firm. He did say that Friday it's going to rain here all day, so it might be a tougher day. But other than that, he thinks that minus 16 to 18 will probably end up being the winner.
Yeah, I feel good about that. Again, when I'll let a pro put the number on it for us, but they're 18 seems legit for sure, especially with how good these guys are.
Yeah, and that's the way that I would think about it as well. I think that if maybe he's right that if they played this in around US Open time, that it would be firm and fast and you can grow everything out. It's just, I mean, outside of Philadelphia in early May, it's going to be pretty tough to get the course in the exact condition that you want it.
Still excited. I mean, one of the things about those overviews that really gets your blood flowing is when you see this sort of like you can actually see how the course looks, the overviews of it when you see it. This looks like a really good course. We have a good field. I wish there was some type of cut. I know you talked about it even during that show. You mentioned it again, and Hoop and I have talked about it on the Ship It Nation shows. We could just get the 85 or 100 and just drop it down still to give us something. I would love that, but it is what it is. We'll take what we get, and it's still going to be a good week. The Truist event of them all, Pat. Super excited for this one.
I am too. Do you like that Quail Hollow gets played as a major? Then they have to do you like when we go to courses that we know nothing about, or do you like to have that history of a course?
I like nothing about. I like more chaos, more things where people have to. I want more opportunities to be able to get unique, get different. My talk's always, even doing DFS Mastermind, talking about building in sets. I think we're going to be building in some sets later, but maybe some skill sets, right? Where we're looking at some of the bomber lineups, looking at some of the no cut strategy of if Friday plays tougher for these guys, it could be for all of them based on how they set everything up. Well, it's going to be whoever has the 2 or more nuke rounds that we call them, nuclear rounds, where they go super low. And those really add up a lot more than somebody who goes out and shoots 69, 69, 69, like a great 3 rounds out of the 4. I'm saying like let's say there's a bad one, but just using that example, you'd rather have the guy with 2 66s or a 66 and a 65 with a 69 and a 70 or something like that. That can often come into play in these no-cut events. So I think that's another good thing to think about here.
Let's talk weather. Obviously, you're not going to be weather stacking since everyone's essentially on the course at the same time. So we're going to go to more skill set stacks and trying to get a little bit different once we build lineups a little bit later on. Remember, as always, if you're watching this live, we don't know when the time codes are going to be. However, if you're watching this on demand, that's when you can leave the 2 6K guys that you like in the description. You sub to the channel, you smash the like. Then the time codes are going to be in there as well if you do want to jump around to the spots that you're most interested in for this show. Relatively little wind, and it looks pretty clear, honestly, on Thursday. Thursday should be a pretty easy day. As Michael just said, that on Friday, there's going to be rain. It's probably going to be a little bit tougher because you're not going to get a lot of rollout. I would expect a lot of shots coming in from distance approach-wise on Friday if we get as much rain as is being projected. I mean, there's a chance that Friday does get rained out. I would doubt it. And they'll probably try as hard as they can to get it in because it does look like most of the rain right now. And if this moves up, there's not going to be a problem at all. But a lot of the rain is going to come at like from 10 to 1 p.m., which is not ideal for getting rounds in.
Yeah, it sucks a little bit, but I guess, it all depends on how they want to play it. Like you said, if it moves up, they're in no trouble at all. If they are able to get some in before and then finish after, if it is just a short period, two and a half to 3 hour window, Pat, I think we'll be fine. So it'll be interesting to watch, but that's something I think that'll focus more for, as the week goes on, just see how it plays out.
Saturday looks super windy as well.
Yeah, that could be fun. I mean, it adds another bonus into it of more variance, more chaos, whatever that might be. But, never know with the weather and Philadelphia. We're East Coasters. That's going to be the East Coast. We'll talk about Keegan later, right? Does this count as Keegan's hometown event, even though it's not even close? But we're within, what is it, a 1,000-mile radius anywhere counts for Keegan?
Well, it's funny you say that because I was trying to work this because I bet Keegan this week. We'll get to that in the bets in a second. But I do think that, because even on Fantasy National, we have a filter down the left-hand side where you can just pick by state. It's not so much that it's hometown and that's a narrative that'll get played up. I'm playing it up this week because I actually do kind of believe it. It's similar grass types. There's similar types of courses. Like when you go to the Northeast, you have all of these super old courses that aren't necessarily constructed in exactly the same way, but there's a lot of similar traits between them. So if you grew up playing both your home course, playing in your home state, and probably in states adjacent to you, that you're just more familiar with the setup versus if you lived in California and just played California and Arizona courses your entire life, or if you lived in Georgia or the Carolinas or Florida or in Texas. Like the Texas and Oklahoma courses, I would guess, are probably pretty similar. Everything in the Southeast, I mean, they're different grass types. The construction and the age of these courses is completely different. And I do think that there is something to that you do get familiarity. Like take someone like John Rahm, for example. I mean, he's not from California, but he has shown a proclivity just to be great in California every time he plays.
Yeah, very close to Arizona. Like you're saying, it's the same type of thing, right? It's adjacent to certain states and the certain areas. We see the California swing, we see the Florida swing. It's always out there. So Texas, you talked about, we make fun of it, but certainly a thing for sure. So I'm very excited about this event. I think it's a good one because of these reasons, but we'll get to Keegan when you get to your bets here in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's get to the bets right now. Just hit you with the quick ones. We got 3 tournaments on the go. I bet the Truist, I bet Myrtle Beach, and I bet the Yeho Tour, the Turkish Airlines Open this week. I just saw a bunch of people were betting one of the same guys, so I bet him. And then I saw that Adrian Otagi is no longer from Spain. He's from Dubai. So I bet him too. I bet Otagi at 40-1 and Tipo Pukinen, the Finn with the goofy hat. I bet him at 66-1. Seemed like everyone was betting him this week, so I bet him too. For the Truist, I bet Xander at 17-1. I'd like him the best of the guys in that tier. Although I like Ludwig, I like Morikawa, I like Cantlay. It's just it seems like every week Xander is getting slightly better. He doesn't even have his best stuff yet, and he's still churning out decent results. And when I take a look at this course and what it demands, I do feel like that if you can catch Xander, he doesn't even need to play his A+ game. If he plays his B+ game, I think he's going to be pretty live here, especially without Scotty. When was the last time we saw Xander in a tournament at 17-1? Now that he's trending back upwards, the driver's not all the way back, but the rest of his game seems to be inching towards that. The driving distance is still way up. He's just missing a ton of fairways, which it seems like if you miss it in the right spots here, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. And his iron game is still as good as it always was. The hands are coming back around the green. The putter's starting to get better. When was the last time you saw Xander in a tournament at 75 or at 17-1 that didn't have Scotty in it?
Yeah, 75-1. We'd have to go back to his first U.S. Open probably, and it was bigger than that maybe at that time. But I will say, that's the part I wanted to ask you about, like your take on this, because maybe I'm just not as zoned into it as someone like you, betting all the time and seeing it and looking at it. So I don't know, but I will say it seems crazy, and I like that number. But I just don't get, like, Scotty's 3-1 last week. I know the field is double the size, but you can erase like the Brooks Koepka thing in majors. You can definitely do that last week at the Byron Nelson. Erase like 90 of those golfers for Scotty, and then put it down to what? Like there was nobody there. How is Rory 5-1? When there's Kawa, Xander, JT, Ludwig, all these guys, even Spieth is playing better now, all these different factors. I just don't get it. And not that people are rushing out to bet Rory. I'm just saying it's funny that that's sort of giving us numbers like 17-1 on Xander. I like the call quite a bit.
Yeah, it's anyone from that range. Like, pick your poison of who you like. I wasn't going to get to JT at 12-1, and I've seen that Morikawa has been beat down to like 13-1 in some spots. I do think that 17 is still the best number that you can get on him right now, but I get the Rory number just because he keeps winning.
Yeah. I mean, it's very good. It's no secret to that. The dude just literally closed up the Grand Slam. Everyone's talking about the same thing. You know, the weight lifted off his shoulders. Maybe now he just runs the table, talking about the Rory Slam coming up. Obviously, he's winning every major this year. Everyone knows already. So it's tough to say, but it just was interesting to me when you think about it from a odds perspective of like 1 week versus the other. Completely different tournaments, no cuts, signatures. I get all that stuff. It just didn't add up to me. So like you said, pick your poison was a great way to put it. You picked it on Xander. I think it's great. I think it's what you said for sure. If it was any other time or, you know, an event, like you said, with Scotty in it, all these different factors, you just never see numbers like this really. And so I think him, Morikawa getting Joe on the bag after he goes out and wins with JT. I put a tweet out there. I thought it was funny though. You know, had to just hop on the phone right away and say, if JT's really not going to keep rolling with this, then I'll take him for myself. Gotta love that. So maybe Morikawa gets a win under his belt here. There'll be other guys we talk about, and the one and done questions are flowing in. So sure, that'll come up next. But what else do you got?
Oh, I was going to say that if Morikawa does win this week, so Joe Grenier or Grenier, or however he's pronouncing his name, he gets JT his first win in like 2 years. He'd get Morikawa's first win in 2 years. Does Cantlay immediately sign this guy up?
Well, I think Morikawa's already signed him up. He said, like, Morikawa's a thinker. Pat. You see him on like the insurance commercials and the financial investment commercials. He's like, listen, may not get a win on the first event with you like JT did. So I got to actually sign you so we can make this thing happen over the next few events. We got majors on the horizon, so on and so forth. So Morikawa could be pretty interesting here, man. He gets a win here soon, and that would really change things. And Joey G would be picking up the big paychecks now.
I got Connors at 40-1. That's a boost that you can get at CoolBet right now. It's in the exclusives tab, the PME boost for the week. I believe he's at 33-1 elsewhere, but you can do that at CoolBet. If you live in Canada outside of Ontario, you can pick that up. I'd bet him at 33-1 anyway. I don't love that number. I just like his game for this course in particular. He's going to hit a ton of fairways. He doesn't quite have the distance you would want, but he makes up for that by being one of the best long iron players in the field. And one thing that really resonated with me from what Blickle had said, that he does think that around the green is going to be a little bit diminished this week, just because the pins are going to be on these weird tiers. And then if you're chipping out of the rough, then it's going to be hard to spin and stop your ball in a lot of these places, that the ball is simply just going to roll out to 15 feet a lot of the times. And listen, Corey Connors can two-putt from anywhere. 3 feet, 45 feet, that's his entire game. That if he can start making a few from mid-range, and his putting has improved a little bit this year. It's either like pretty decent or pretty bad. It vacillates week to week. That I'm going to roll with him at 40-1. I got Keegan at 66-1. I talked about it on Monday. I like where his game's at. He just cannot putt at the moment. That maybe getting him back to this region could fix his putter just a little bit. Maybe some familiarity. He's had a lot of success in the Northeast over the years, be it at the BMW Championship, be it at the Travelers, wherever it might be. He's been very good in this region of the country. And then I bet Thorbjornsen 125-1 with 8 places. That I just think that if we're going to go with the narrative that bombers are going to be good, he is the best of those low-end bombers. And he's playing some good golf right now.
Yeah, I like the Keegan one. We'll go back to, so I kept bringing him up. Did you see the cool trophy, the cricket trophy?
Yeah.
I could see when I see that trophy, I see Keegan's dumb smile standing next to it, holding it. It's just the way I see it. So I don't know. I feel good about the Keegan call this week. I like that one quite a bit.
He is also hosting a private dinner for potential U.S. Ryder Cup players next week, which Bryson and Brooks were both invited to. Patrick Reed, he was not.
What about Dustin Johnson? He's done too.
Yeah, well,
he's getting special invites to the PGA Championship, but he's not getting invites to the Ryder Cup dinners.
Now, maybe if he and Ricky play well at the PGA Championship with their special invites, maybe they'll get some extra consideration.
Yeah, it's possible.
I saw people complaining about it, that Ricky and Dustin both got in. I think people forget that these exemptions exist to try to gain interest and sell more tickets to these tournaments.
Yeah, that's literally what they're allowed to do with them. And that's obviously frustrates other people that are high on the golf chain of the ratings and the rankings and all these different things. And I get that too. But like you said, these guys have been around forever and they draw on the fans, and that's just what it's going to be. We've seen it with Spieth. It was more, I think, a problem, Pat, when it was like the PGA board, where it was like Webb Simpson and guys like that getting in, and they're like, okay, they're literally just nominating themselves. So it seems, right? That's what people were going on about beforehand. Now it's just like mad because, old man yells at cloud.
We've been having a bunch of discussions about who's going to be on this Ryder Cup team for the Americans. What do you think Patrick Reed has to do to get on the team?
I don't know the exact rules, like the setup, but like pretty much qualify. However possible. I don't even know if he can, because it's like how now he can only pick up points in certain ways. So yeah, I mean, win a major and maybe force yourself. It's like I don't want to make fun of this, but like how did Harman get in? Won the Open?
Yeah.
Right. So there you go. Patrick Reed will have to go win a major and then hopefully still be within. There's just no way he gets a pick. There's no chance. There's no anything. I just don't see it.
You don't think something like 3 top 5s in the 4 majors would do it for him?
No, and Keegan's got the call before after winning events and been told no. So even if that put him on the radar for needing to get a phone call, I still think it would be the Keegan 1.0 version of the call of, sorry, you're not getting in. Take a hike.
Myrtle Beach. I'm just rolling out some Pat Mayo faves. That's what I like to do at alternate events. It's been pretty successful. It was almost very successful at the last one at Corrales. Just had guys come up one shot short, Toasty and Thorbjornsen at that one, hit Phillips at the other one. I got Kevin Yu 35-1, Valimaki 40-1, Pearson Cooney 55-1, Cameron Champ 75-1, and my guy Big Norman Zong 250-1 with 8 places.
Your guy
for him.
Panda's your guy now. Wow.
Well, well, I'm the only one betting him these days.
Well, geez, I love a good Panda bet, so I'm in. I got you covered on that one. I knew Pearson was coming out, so I'm excited for that one. And one thing I want to go back to real quick. Did you see? This is totally separate, but EVR talk for 2 seconds. Did you see his takes and talk around the signature events?
I did. I can interpret that 2 ways.
Okay.
One is that I think he's right. 2, I think he's kind of butthurt that he doesn't get into all these signature events.
I was thinking the latter as well. And the one thing he said too, I added this yesterday, but the chat just talked about DJ being cashed out. He was like, there's no way John Rahm is worth $500 million. That's like Cristiano Ronaldo money. It's like, yeah, that's why he signed. Like, yeah, he knows he's not worth it too. You think these guys are idiots? When $500 million over X amount of years gets put in front of you, you got a decision to make. And I think for most people on this planet, it's a pretty easy signature at that point, just to sign it, whether their morals are this, that, and the other, what you truly believe. Most people haven't been able to see 6 figures to 7 to think about signing for it, let alone 9. So that's a mid-9, by the way. So that one was pretty accurate, but I think John Rahm knows that as well when he's signing that.
Think about what the average person would do with a $500 paycheck being put in front of them. And all John Rahm had to do was simply continue to play golf just at other places in the world.
Yeah. And DJ was pretty clear. I think the chat is right about that one, but DJ was on full swing when he said, I feel pretty good about it. He's just sitting at the table smiling and chuckling. It's like, yeah, if it does it, he's still playing in these majors. He can still get those. And if he doesn't, then so be it. He sees it as what it is. It's a professional golf career. It went pretty well, and he's now collecting all the cash. So it's whatever these guys want to do. It's their own decision. But I thought that was another good comment that EVR had, that I'm pretty sure John Rahm knew exactly what he was doing when he signed.
It's kind of crazy that DJ's exemptions are up now, though.
Yeah, I mean, but look, still getting in.
Yeah, he got it. I mean, he's in the Masters for life. It's like being in the NWO, and he's got another 2 years at the U.S. Open because he won in 2016 at Oakmont. So you get 10 years on that.
Yeah, and then the PGA Championship. I mean, it to me, this is the crazy one, though. It's like it almost, the fact that DJ's running out for the other ones you're mentioning, and I know on this one you mentioned a guy like Ricky getting it, but to me that would hurt guys outside of DJ because I still think DJ gets them before some of the others. That's just my opinion. For
sure. And I don't know what the Open Championship is going to do. Are they going to invite DJ?
I don't know. Again, not the best on the rules or how many they get or what that would look like, but I would expect if there's multiple or enough to give out that DJ gets one. Yes, if required.
Or he'll have to go play in the Open Championship qualifications.
Which maybe he shows up for. I don't know. Maybe plays better in those terms. But yeah, Timothy says that places their legacy in a toilet. Like I said, I don't disagree, but these guys are okay with it. DJ went on camera specifically to the entire world on Netflix and said he's good with his decision. So he knows what it is.
One and done picks for the week. Quick note, Jason Day was WD from this tournament. That was Cuss one and done pick. So Jason Day knew. He's like, listen, man, I got enough back problems and vertigo problems as it is. I don't need to be trying to play while I'm Anderker. So he just said, fuck it, I'm out. And Patrick Rogers took his spot, but Patrick Rogers isn't in the DraftKings pool for the main slate, at least for the Truist.
So yeah, so far, and I don't expect they'll do it. It's late now. Usually when they have over 24 hours, they do get them in, but they just didn't on this one. So now it seems like they won't. But I did see Jason Day. I mean, it wasn't in Florida, so I had speculation at first. It wasn't on the Cali swing. There's no Disney, but it did say it wasn't Disney. It was disc knee herniation in the back.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound good for him in the Malbon sponsorship, but hopefully he gets better because he was kind of coming around a little bit. I like Day. And this week would have been a good spot, I think, but wouldn't know that till we get the news. So
Cuss switched his pick from Day to Daniel Berger, who we'll see. I feel like he's the most overvalued guy in this field.
He's definitely getting talked up. I do think like the it's all going to be a decision. I don't know. He's not going to fit those skill set lineups, Pat, if we're building for bombers. I can tell you that because when it comes to the field, he's outside the top 50, I think, in a 70-person, 74-person, whatever it is, field. But on the other stats over the recent form and term, he would look pretty decent. I think that's where people are getting it from. And then the price, of course, when we get to it later in the numbers.
Well, like, I just don't get it. Like, he was T3 at Heritage, That was his first, and I guess he was T2 in Phoenix earlier. So he has 2 top 10s this year. I guess 2 top 3s this year. He's been good, but not great. But now he's above, and maybe I'm just thinking about these guys in the wrong terms, but he's basically the same price as Straka, who has a win, has been like good in bigger events. Lowry has missed 1 cut all year and has been competitive in some of these higher end fields. Like Keegan's been just as good, basically. He's basically doing the same thing Berger is, except Keegan's tee to green every week is amazing and just doesn't make any putts. It's really strange to me.
Well, I think it's what you just said, though. Like, if you use Keegan as the barometer here, like Keegan's 18th miscut, 47th, 20th, etc., not good, versus Berger's 3rd, 21st, 20th, 20th, 15th, 12th, a second earlier when he came back. Like, he seems back, so people are just going to run with that for sure over the recent form of a guy like Keegan that they don't necessarily love, even though there's positives in there and stats that fit and reasoning that we have to be interested here. So that's just where you're going to find it in these stuff, especially when we get to DraftKings and whatnot and who's overvalued, undervalued, like you said. Those are the little things that people don't spend enough time looking at.
I'm guessing, I mean, obviously it correlates directly with what the betting odds are. And Berger's like 25 to 1 or 28 to 1 in this field, which I found really strange that he had shorter odds than Corey Connors to win, because Connors has been better than Daniel Berger. But even just, I suppose it goes back long term that there's a former Ryder Cup player. He has a bunch of wins on tour, got hurt, and he's still slowly coming back, even 18 months later, trying to get back to that peak form. But guys like Spawn and Novak have simply been better than he has, and they're like $1,000 cheaper.
Hey, yeah, that's another one. The funny thing is, and we'll get to it shortly in DraftKings, but I don't know if everyone's going to just run to play Novak, even though he's had really good results recently, but just kind of where he's fitting in the price area, and people are looking above him in the 8K range or below in the 7K range. And sometimes that's a thing where everyone's saying it can't happen again, and then it does, or it is. Like, people thought he was done after his second place at the signature event, and then he goes out and wins the team event. I know people write off the Zurich, as many of us do, but I'm saying it's still, he went out and still played through it. And I know it's a partner thing, but still, he's had good results recently, and his price is super low on DraftKings this week for a no-cut event.
Oh, Timothy in the chat said that DJ is a sellout, places their legacy in the toilet. I mean, if he doesn't care, why do you care?
That's what I said. Yeah. I mentioned earlier, like, this is he went on TV on Netflix in front of the whole world and said it's all good, man. Like, he's very happy with his decision. So
you know what his legacy is? His family being generationally wealthy.
Yeah, that too. But it's all, I mean, it's, some will forget too, like, his decision was probably made with the accolades that he already has. And other people, this is like in the business world, Pat, you do a ton of stuff, your own companies, investing, things like that, and getting involved in others. It's, some people chase and want to be like $100 million type entrepreneurs. Other people, enough is enough. And they say, okay, I'm going to make 10 million or 5 million or whatever their number is. And for some, once they have those sort of numbers or their accolades, they just decide. And then on top of it, they throw 200 million at him, or 120, I think it was at the time. It's like, yeah, he just decided to take that and be happy with what he had and what he could still get. Still gets to play.
I'm living proof of that. Once I made my first $500 million, I stopped grinding as hard.
I noticed. That's why you're still doing shows from hotel room lobbies and whatever else it might be when you go on vacation and say you're not doing anything, yet you're still packing all of your equipment and doing those shows. So that's what it's like to be a $500 million man, Pat Mayo.
Hey, I didn't even bring my camera or microphone with me to Europe, so I would not be able to do it. I left it at home intentionally.
Good. I like that.
Yeah, it was very nice to recharge, I got to say, although it was a very hectic trip. So I'm looking at our picks as we try to decide on one of my 3 teams for the one and done. We're currently in 19th place, winning $6,500 in the race for the Mayo Cup at fantasygolfchampionships.com. So I'd like to hit a winner here. Here's the issue. Here's who we don't have for this tournament. Rory, Colin, JT, Ludwig, Xander, Spieth, Connors, Hideki. All used.
Yeah, we're in big trouble when it comes to that, because signature event, that's like all the win equity, but somebody else could come through. So who are you considering that we do have is a better way to put this question.
So here's who we do have. So we'll talk it through for us and try to make a selection. And then we'll try to talk about it in a more broad sense of who people are going to use this week. I think Xander will be the one that more people use because he still has 80% availability and most of the other guys don't. Like Rory's at 36%. Colin's at 40%. JT's at 35. Ludwig's at 39. Cantlay's at 39. Tommy's at 57. Even Spieth is at 64. So when you just take a look at who is available for people to use, I think that will be a better barometer of guiding where the top of the ownership is going to be. I mean, I'm fine with rolling out Cantlay, honestly. Like, or because we're looking at it right now, do we just save him for Memorial where he's had all the success? Like, I'm not going to use him at a major. There's 3 signature events left: this, Memorial, and the Travelers. The Travelers is a bit more wide open because it takes more of different skill sets. So you could use, Cantlay and Victor both have wins at Muirfield Village. I feel more confident in Cantlay's game right now, but a lot of people are probably looking at it like I am, that if you have Cantlay left and you've used all these other guys, do you use them now or do you save them for that event? I think those are your 2 choices.
So this is a tricky because it's actually different and it ties into a bunch of the people in the chat. So I'll bring this all together, but we are talking about a team in 19th place.
Yes.
So we're up there, but our tricky versus others is we don't have the high powerhouse option. Like we don't even have the Morikawas or the Xanders that many have left on the table. So we're in a trickier spot of almost having to make that call. So I love that you brought up the Memorial. There is strategy to this and bringing that into it. I don't know why, but I actually feel more confident in Cantlay for Memorial. Give him a little bit more time. Maybe he gets Joe Grenier, like you said. I highly doubt it because Morikawa locked him up. But I will say the Victor Hovland topic, what else would we be saving him for? And realistically, I think as long as for a no-cut event, a 13th, the 21st, or the win before that, I'm not saying he's back. He's always working through something. But if we are having to get a little bit risky with it here, we don't even have a Connors or somebody like that we can just hope to cash in. I would probably take Hovland over Cantlay and save Cantlay for Memorial. I like that call that you brought up.
The thing with Victor is that I'm not waiting for him for any particular spot. I'm just simply waiting for him to play better.
What's better? A win and a 13th in 2 of his last 3.
Yeah, I just
what versus
I want to see him have some confidence in this game.
What have you seen in Cantlay though?
Just taking a look at the stat model that I built out, Cantlay's number 2 for the week.
Sure. The stat model that you built out. You're saying like what you want to see from somebody. If you've seen Hovland's 13th, 21st, and a win versus Cantlay's 36th, 33rd, 13th, like what are we seeing?
I'm just seeing that Cantlay can't make any putts, and that's weird for Patrick Cantlay. I see that Victor can't chip, but I know that he can't chip.
But around the green is less important this week. We've talked about
that. If that's true, then Victor could be an absolutely smash play, and then Victor could also be really good next week too at the PGA Championship. Because
we're using him though. We're not using him there.
I don't know. It depends on what we want to do. Because you know that everyone's gonna. Bryson would be my go-to pick right now for the PGA Championship because I know I have him available. I can only use him at majors. It'd be crazy not to use Bryson in a one and done with the way that he's playing. And I've already bet him to win. Might as well roll with him in the one and done next week. I'm just looking at carry distance for the week. And let's see here. Off the tee, maybe that could be the big divider. I think that Hovland is actually way up in that category. If he's inside the top 10 in that category, we're using him. Let's see.
Deal. He's better for sure. This is the guy that was pegging certain fairways that you're not even allowed to go to and driving over trees and bunkers to make it happen. We've talked about Hovland in the past of Rory Jr. off the tee in situations. And again, I get what you're saying, but with the win and the third, I've seen enough for our spot and the tricky situation we're in where we don't just have another guy that we can go to that we feel much better about. We have nobody up there and it'll be the same. Luckily at the majors, we have live options to consider like Bryson, who you mentioned.
So they're actually both towards the bottom half in carry distance in this field. So the other way that we could go about it is pass on those guys and say, we'll use one at Memorial. We'll try to fit in someone if they play another offshoot event. And that leaves us with the Henleys, the Lowrys, Tommy Fleetwood, that type of player.
Yeah, but my next version would have been like Henley or Fleetwood, to be honest. And it's Fleetwood's just going to find fairways. He's going to do what he does. We're just collecting cash, though, most likely. You know that, right?
Yeah, but that's fine. That's where we're at right now. No, because look, if we're in 19th place and we've used all these guys, chances are the guys ahead of us have also used most of these guys too. It's not like they're just like, oh, I haven't used Rory yet. Let's roll out Rory. Yeah, but you couldn't be up at the top of the standings if you haven't used Rory in one of his wins.
For sure. Somebody said, roll out Rory this week. If you have him, fine. Yes, he's 5-1. Like you said, it's it's an event. He could do his thing.
No Scotty.
Huge money. No Scotty. Definitely a good time. If you were saved, you don't need to save him for another major or anything like that. It's a great time to use Rory if you have him. But yeah, because we don't have that luxury, Pat, that is the strategy and why it's good to talk through it. It's like if we're not super comfortable on a Cantlay and Hovland, and realistically with both those guys, you're kind of playing with fire, even on the cash side of things, because both of them could definitely have just terrible weeks. It's not like they're high volatility, high variance plays that are going to be good for DraftKings, but in one and done, when we know we don't really have a backup option with a ton of win equity, we actually are better, especially in the spot this high up the board, to just get as much cash as we possibly can and hope that someone like Tommy comes through for us. So I like Tommy or Henley. I'm good with either.
Let's go with Henley.
Okay, let's do it.
Because he's been he only has 61 availability. I don't think a lot of people are going to go to him in this spot. And his results just continue to be good. He's just not absolutely electric with his putter right now. And we've seen him play this style of course very well. Like even for US Open play, I would say that if you can I mean, it's going to be easier than a U.S. Open, obviously, but a course where you need some plus distance, which obviously he doesn't have. How does he make up for it? Well, he hits all the fairways. Yeah. He's great with his long irons, and he makes a ton of putts. He's sort of like the advanced version of Harris English right now, because Harris English is very much the same way too. He tends to play the harder, longer course as well, despite the fact that he doesn't do any of those things well.
It's exactly that. These guys make up for it. I think people, misconstrue that oftentimes or just assume because of everything they've seen, there's no way to make it happen. These guys know that's not in their bag. Like Henley knows he's not going to drive it over every setup of all the trees and miss all those bunkers. So guess what he's really good at? Positioning off the tee. So he finds his spot, makes it up from there. And then the fact that these guys that you're talking about, the Englishes, the Henleys, again, it's not usually Connors. Trust me, it's no Canadian bias here. The guy can be horrible with the putter, but it's when those guys are on with their putter, because they've got the fairways and the greens so much in the bag that it's just uncanny. Like you can't beat that. They do have ways to find their way up the board, and we're talking about just collecting cash. Now, Pat, Thomas Ryan in the chat says in third place. So shout out to Thomas. It's we're getting there through the season. In third place, still have Xander, Colin, JT, and Ludwig. Talk about a good spot to be in. Hey, what would you do with this situation?
I don't know. I mean, I would like to be in third and have to make these decisions. So he's probably currently winning like 60 grand. So you want to continue to move up to try to win that 100 grand. I'd still be playing for first right now. If I was playing for first in his spot and not just trying to protect where I was, I'd use Ludwig because no one's using him.
Yeah. Do you think, or do you just like press the button on Xander or something where it's like, I guess it's just as much unknown, but I always think about it, if you're this far ahead and you could just keep pushing the needle, I would just go with the guy that you think wins. Like that's how I would look at it and avoid the ownership conversation.
Sure. I ended up going with Xander, but I don't think that by the implied odds, JT has the best shot of winning of all of these guys because he's higher up on the board. Then you have Morikawa and Xander, and then you have Ludwig and Cantlay. I just think that Ludwig gets overlooked here in this spot. And I don't think that if you're just talking about win only, the problem with Ludwig is that he has a T40 in him in one of these events, but he also has, I believe, the same winning upside as all of those guys. Maybe not Xander, but we don't know exactly where Xander's at right now.
Ludwig is just a robot, man. It's insane. He won a signature event already, and it's because it's almost like he doesn't care down the stretch. Even at the Masters when he made mistakes, even the previous year to this year, remember when he went in the water late, it was like he just smiles and moves on. And that's the best attitude to have when you're playing down the stretch. He's going to gain that experience and keep winning. So I like that call quite a bit. I think it's better if again, it doesn't really matter, but if you're further back, I like pulling the trigger on something like that versus just taking Xander. I do got to give Dad, Papa Tambo, a shout out again. He came through last week again, gets that nuclear fourth round from Spieth. But he doesn't have Scotty anyway, so it's like he can't have that. He's not going to have the guys in front of him. So he moved up to 39th now in the one and done. So it's good to see.
So is he fired up about, is this what he wants to talk to you about all the time now?
This is what he's fired up about for sure. We're actually going away tomorrow. It's for not the best reasons, but don't need to get into that here, but just we're headed on a little family trip. So I'm sure he'll be excited, but he picked Xander for the week and his thought process. He's dialed into this show. He's dialed into sort of anything he can pick up for information. And he said that, he's going to run with Xander and keep it rolling and just try and stack up the money while he's up there.
I wonder how many people do this, because you do it with your dad. I do it with my dad. I gift him an entry as a Christmas gift every single year. And I know a lot of people started doing that. If you don't do that, it's a great way to have something to talk about with your dad.
It's also hilarious because who knows your dad the best. He knows you the best. Like there's certain things, but how much the mood changes, Pat, from when he was like 2300th to now up in like 39th, right? It's just, it was like, this thing is bullshit. It's done. He can't figure it out. Da, 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 da. And now it's like basically just pushed to the side. Now it's, this thing's go, go, go. Like, man, what's that up to now? What's this? What's the money at? We're showing the payout structures. Well, even a 13th, I'm like, no, think about first, not 13th. But he's definitely thinking about it, having some fun with it. I love it. I think it was you that gave me the idea of the Christmas present. And it's been great ever since.
I forgot to mention that I have a boosted parlay in the lobby at CoolBet right now. It's top 20 Keegan, top 20 Thorbjornsson, pays 8-1. If both those guys come inside the top 20. So those are better odds than you're going to get anywhere else. So shout out CoolBet for doing that one. They're also doing a Cabot giveaway. You can opt into it, just like you could opt into the Canadian Open giveaway, where you got tickets to my show, a trip to Toronto. This one is for October. It's under the Cabot tab. I posted it out on my Twitter account too, if you just want to get the direct link to it. But you can win a trip to where we live.
Are you going?
What's that?
Did you get to go?
It's in the middle of football season, so I don't think I'm going. I asked him, I was like, can I come up for like 2 of the days? I can probably sneak out on the Thursday and Friday. Can't really miss Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and week 5 of football.
No, that's true. That's always the tricky part when football season gets back around. But I thought maybe for a couple days you'd sneak out. I know everyone thinks it's like right next door. It's a bit of a drive still, but certainly worth it if you can get out there. Yeah,
I'm going in 2 weeks, and it's a 3.5 hour drive from like my front door, and I have to pick up Cust on the way and everyone else who's coming on the way. So
yeah,
if we let Cust drive,
keep them alive for June, man. Keep them alive for June.
If we let Cust play, or if we let Cust drive, which he wouldn't do, it would probably take 7 hours to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
And he won't turn the AC up to full max, even when it's like 45 degrees out.
No, certain optimal features that he would have to focus on and tell you all about as well.
And loves driving to below the speed limit at all times.
Yeah.
Just outrageous. Just outrageous stuff. I know I have Rory available on my shitty team in the one and done, the one that's in 3,000th place. So I'm going to just roll out Rory and just hope he wins, knowing that no one's really going to have him. And maybe I can start clawing back in that one. I kind of hope he doesn't win. I'd rather have, who do we pick? Henley. I'd rather Henley win.
So I'm listening to you, but I'm like zoning out at the same time. This is crazy. Like we do this live every week. I love doing this show. I think everybody loves how we go through it all. Now we got Dave, who, I don't know, someone could just be making stuff up in the chat, but first place in the one and done by $1 million.
He's up by a ton. If Dave is, where is it? Let me open up.
I guess he's talking about maybe his own one and done, but it's just crazy how many people tune in for just that. I'm saying like, it's like the people that are really contending and they want the actual thought process that we're going through on it. So I love this. And I think that's kind of good that we sort of broke it down from the perspective of like, we didn't have the stud that we could play. How would we play it? Versus others are saying, I do have the stud. What do I do here? So I don't know. I would go with Xander for sure. If I was Dave, I would just roll it out.
I don't know. Well, this is Dave Barrick. I'm first place in the one and done. So the guy who's first place in the one and done is at Landon4293. And he's up by almost $4 million over second, which is.
He might be in his own one and done, but still, if you're in first in a one and done right now, it's quite a ways through the season. It could be one of the other ones that people post out there. It could be something of his own, but still, if you're in first, that's amazing. And I don't know, I would be fine because Xander for sure is a major guy, but I think Bryson, well, he's hot. Pat mentioned it next week. You could obviously use him at the US Open as well, but I like it right now where he's really dialed in at these majors and stuff that we've seen him play. Just won on Live again. So I like Bryson for next week, but yeah, I would probably use Xander here to be honest, and then just use Bryson next week. That's how I would look at it and just see what happens after that. Go from there.
I would tend to agree. If you're in first place, don't worry about anything.
Yep.
Don't worry about ownership. Just take the best guys save your best guys for when the prize pools are the most.
Yeah. Agree 100%.
Let's move to Underdog. Code Mayo at Underdog right now will get you a deposit bonus of up to $1,000 and a free pick in the Pick'em game. How do you want to play this week? We nailed exactly what was going on last week, and then Ben Ann just like pissed down his leg and screwed us.
Yeah, the thing is we were on the right track. It just didn't work. That's sometimes how it goes. I tell people this all the time. Like you can have great lineups that perform poorly in DFS, and this is Underdog. I get it, but I'm saying you can also have you see bad lineups that get to the top, and it's the same with betting cards. It's the same with the picks on Underdog, things like that. So what are you thinking from a perspective this week on how you want to attack it, knowing what we know and talk through?
Well, it does seem like we're going to get easier conditions on Thursday than maybe almost any other day. It still might be a bit soft from earlier on in the week, but there's very little wind. That I would be good for taking some bombers with birdies or better overs, but I wouldn't be disinclined to take some bogeys over too, and that will help us in the payout department as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
like who are some shit putters that are good players that are just going to make bogeys?
Right now, maybe Tony Finau, but
let's say Victor Hovland. I think Victor can score well here. He could have more than 4.5 birdies, but I kind of like him for more than 2.5 bogeys.
Yeah, Victor Hovland, record round, first round is incoming, bogey free, but let's do it.
Okay, we'll throw Victor on higher. Tony is 3.5 birdies. I mean, they don't even have a bogey option
they won't
for
put
him.
The bogeys up for him right now. No, that's fair.
See, Cantley's been putting really poorly.
Oh, what about Wyndham? Wyndham can have 2.5 bogeys, man. Come on.
Where's Wyndham at? Let's see here.
Scroll past him. That's.
I mean, he's juiced down for the for bogeys are worse. Higher is 0.89 for him, so they're on to him.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even see the point. It was blocked by my face on the setup here. But yeah, okay. So who else do you like then?
Let's see. Finau. I mean, Finau 3.5 birdies or better, but dude just can't putt. So that's a bit much. People love Spieth this week, don't they?
I think so. Yes, and I noticed that too when we get to DraftKings later from the ownership perspective. It looks like people are latching on to that, and he's back. And last week's result, and obviously he can get around pretty much anywhere, so it'll be interesting to see. But what was I going to say about that actually? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You just reminded me of something, Pat, because we talked about it last week's show. I think it was the week before. Anyway, the Spieth Grand Slam. When we talked about what would it wouldn't overdo what Rory just did, but wouldn't that be crazy? And not that Rory would give a shit, but like Rory finally gets it done, and then Spieth goes out and wins the career Grand Slam like the very next major. That would be wild.
Do you think it would diminish Rory at all?
No, definitely not. It's still literally the thing about Rory is just the overall career and needing that to sort of be the last accolade and finish it out. Sans a gold medal or something like that I'm sure he'll still try and get himself anyway. So little things like that, to me, it just doesn't diminish it at all. But it would just be kind of funny that it's like you never have career Grand Slams, and then all of a sudden, bang, bang, back to back, you get them.
You know who we can try to target here? And maybe this is the week he finally gets his entire act together. I want to go Adam Scott higher than 69.5 strokes. They shoots even par or worse. He's been really bad.
Okay, I thought when you said get his act together, you were thinking he was going to play better. But yeah.
No, I say maybe he does get his act together. Okay. But if we just roll with how he's been playing, that seems much better.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And then we can go, we need to have a lower here because we're only at 2.5. But if we can throw a lower in for someone having a good score, then I think that we're doing a lot better. Doesn't this feel like a Justin Rose course?
Yes.
Justin Rose, lower. No, that doesn't work. I was going to say 3.5 birdies. We got to find a higher on birdies or a lower on score. So you go Justin Rose to shoot 1 under or better.
Yeah. What was the Siwoo bogeys that you just scrolled past?
It was just birdies or better. 3.5.
Birdies are better. That's why I just scrolled quickly. I got you. Yeah. So I'm fine with that. I like the Justin Rose lower. It's not a major where you'll see him be the first round leader in the first round, in the first round leader quite often, I should say, but definitely think it's a spot that he could come out hot early too. So I like just the under in general, the lower.
Well, I wonder if we can play some of these guys from I just see they posted the other ones.
The Myrtles?
The Myrtle the Turtle. We want to just go lower on Rico Hoey, 68.5. Dude loves first rounds.
Rico Lowy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we'll go Victor, 2.5 bogeys or worse. Adam Scott higher, 69.5, and Rico Hoey lower than 68.5 for that. I'll dig in more later. Maybe I'll have another one to throw up in the newsletter, but we'll go 100 pays, 516. If those ones come through, lock that in, and I will throw that into the chat right now for everyone. Boom. Make it easy for ourselves. So coming back on the other side, we're going to be breaking down the entire DraftKings slate. Plus, we're going to be making lineups, making some picks, and trying to correlate your lineups and taking your questions. So please. The weather is warming up, which means it's almost time to get back onto the course full time. And if you really want to up your game, you can take the lessons, you can improve your game, but if you're stuck with those old clubs, nothing is going to change. That's why you need to head on over to your local PXG store for a fitting, because they make the best golf clubs. Period. I just had mine out for the first time on the course at Pinehurst about 3 weeks ago, and it was awesome. The sound my irons make. I have the Gen 7 irons. They have the chrome top, titanium back. They're awesome. Biggest improvement for me has been the Black Ops driver. I'm carrying the ball about 15 to 20 yards longer off the tee. I'm not a huge hitter. I was about 225, 230 carry off the tee with my old driver. Get the new Black Ops driver, carrying it 245, 250. Hell, I had a 270 drive carrying bunkers down at Pinehurst number 4 on my last day. Once I was really starting to heat up with my clubs, it was amazing. It was so easy to get the fitting done, and it was the fastest way that I have found to improve my game to a point where I'm ready to tackle any course at this point. You can too. And for a limited time, you can save up to 20% on your entire order. Head on over to pxg.com/PatMayo. That's pxg.com/PatMayo to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/PatMayo. Restrictions apply. See site for details. If you're looking to up your game this summer, Tour Striker Online Golf Academy gives you the real coaching you've been missing. Monthly personal swing analysis. You send in your swing, boom, you'll get your feedback from a coach every single month. Premium weekly video tips, an expanded and enhanced library of tips reserved only for Academy members. I've been digging into these ones since I got my Tour Striker Online Golf Academy account, and my short game really starting to improve. That's where I needed to go immediately, and boom, there were tons of tips for me to help myself get up and down for par instead of just making bogey everywhere. Many golfers make getting better way harder than it needs to be. They try to Frankenstein a swing by watching some YouTube videos and an Instagram reel, and all of those tips don't work in conjunction with each other, which you're going to get at the Tour Striker Online Golf Academy. And the worst part is, if you do it by Frankensteining it together, you pick up bad habits that are really hard to unlearn. I know, I went through this for years. It's frustrating, it's slow, and it leaves you stuck way longer than you need to be. So what you need to do is head to tourstriker.com/TSGA and use the code MAYO to get your first month of Tour Striker Golf Academy online free, plus instant access to 2 bonus courses, the recipe for better golf and bombs, and how to consistently smash the driver, a $194 value. That's tourstriker.com/TSGA, then use the code MAYO. Welcome back to the Pat Mayo Experience. On the line with Tambo from ShipItNation.com. A reminder to everyone, use code Mayo at Underdog. Get yourself that deposit of up to $1,000. And FantasyNational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off. We're nearing a very good time. Next Wednesday is really the sweet spot of when you want to do the monthly deal, because you'll get PGA Championship through the U.S. Open with the way that the schedule works out. But you can do it right now. Just hop in there. FantasyNational.com/Mayo. What do you, I built one line. We talked about skill sets lineup, and I've already built one. It was the only lineup that I've built so far this week, and I threw it in. It was the carry distance lineup, Tambo. It's Rory, Ludwig, Minwoo, Rasmus, Thorbjornsen, and Woodland.
Yeah, we'll take this as the starting point. If
we don't need to, we'll build what we think is going to be the chalkiest lineup in a second. But that's when we thought about skill sets. That's the skill set that I wanted to build around.
Yeah, I like this. And perfect. Slid me back down to the bottom there. All right. So yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about skill set lineups, but I think this is already more unique than what most are doing, not just because it's a skill set lineup, more so because you're using 2 6K guys. One of the interesting things about this week, Pat, is the obvious is that McIlroy is going to be super high owned because of the price. But even with all those 6K values, most lineups don't require more than one 6K option. Like, it's kind of like pick your 6K option and fill out the rest. And then if you were to fade Rory on non-Rory lineups, if you will, then you can actually just still only need, you can get like 3 guys, 9,500 and above, and do it that way, and then not need to go into the 6s still. So anything with more than one 6K guy is going to be pretty unique this week.
I'm looking at it too. And once again, after the show is over, dump your 2 favorite 6K players down in the description. All I'm seeing right now in terms of ownership from down there, people seem to like Eric Cole and Tom Hoge, which seems counterintuitive to this course.
Yeah, and I think that's also just because it's going to spread out. Like, people are all going to have their spots down there. I also think you'll see more on the guys in the lower, I guess not overall in the lower 7s, but I'm saying versus the going into the 6K range. I think more people are likely to play Taylor Pendrith, Michael Kim, right there at the bottom versus needing to go into the sixes. But everyone has their guys. I'm a Jagerbombs guy. There's tons of guys down there that I know that people have interest in. You talked about Thorpe. I think he's fine. Like there's a lot of good options down here of guys that you could play and take a shot on, but most of them are going to be sub 5% owned.
I would guess that Thorbjornsen, Woodland, EVR, Ryan Gerard don't get to 10%, but they probably get over 5%. They'll be like 6 or 7 or 8, just somewhere in that category. And then everyone else is below 5.
That's what I'm trying to see. Bridgman, by the way, is a guy that's going to be popular, especially when you go into the higher stakes, smaller field stuff.
Why?
So projections and just the way sites run it. So you can look at him right now. I think, where did I see this earlier? Was the volatility of them as well, like some of the results, the seconds, the 15s, the thirds, the recent stuff, but not the most recent stuff where he's not been good. So just interesting to note, but definitely think him, Tom Hoagie, who you mentioned, some of the others, but most of them will stay under 5 or 6%, to be honest.
I have no interest in Joe Highsmith this week.
What about Jacob Bridgman, who I brought up?
Oh, is that who you said, Bridgman?
Yeah, we always mix those guys up. They are the same dude until you see them. But yeah, that's definitely on paper. It's hilarious you made that connection because that is one of the most common pairings for people that are like, oh, who's the same golfer that are different? That's the one.
You know what? I don't know as much about the skill sets of Jacob Bridgman. I know what Highsmith gets up to, and I know what courses that you would want to play him at. Just let me take a quick look here. Let's see if there is any love for. You said you said Bridgman.
But Bridgman, the thing about him is he can make birdies. Okay, so
sure. Well, he's such a good putter. That's why.
Yeah. So
and maybe he can live and die off that, but he's like not good off the tee. He has very little driving distance. He's horrible on approach. Like I just don't see it. Like
what's actually funny though is that
I would rather take a gamble on, like, if I had to go pay $6,100, I would just prefer to go with the skill set guys that no one's playing. Like, God forbid, Cam Young, Higo, I think just set up better. Maybe even Cam Davis.
Well, I was just gonna say it's actually hilarious that you made the connection with the Highsmith thing. For $300 less, you might actually think Highsmith fits better, right? From the long irons, the fairways that he can hit, the birdies are better gained, all the recent stuff with him. Like he can definitely do it. So for $300 more, maybe just play the guy that's kind of the same for $300 less.
Do you have any takes on Alex Noren making his season debut?
No, I do not. But it's interesting that he's back. Your boy Higo would be someone that was more interesting, winning that, sneaking out the win at the Corrales there.
Yeah, won at Corrales, was 12th in Puerto Rico. Like, he has some pretty decent results, honestly. He has no status anymore, and now he does again. So he's going to be in a bunch of these tournaments, but he mashes it off the tee. Like, he's someone that I would start considering.
Yeah. What's his price here? 63?
He's 61. I talked about carry distance. Your boy Steven Yeager, very high up in that. He just gets a lot out of the ball. But Higo at 6,100 is 13th.
Yeah, they don't call him Yeager bombs for nothing, Pat. That's the guy.
Well, put it this way. Higo right now over the past 6 months, 13th in carry, 22nd in driving distance, 18th off the tee, 14th in accuracy, 2nd in total driving, 4th in good drives gained. And that's amongst players in this field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, we're gonna build them, and he's your guy, so we'll fit him in. But definitely think he's an interesting spot here. And then I guess the only other thing in the 6Ks is you mentioned one of them. That God forbid, like you said, you say these names, but man, Sahith Theegala 6,900, Fitzpatrick, and they don't all fit the skill set. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying names like Fitzpatrick 68, Cam Young was the one you mentioned 62, and who's the other one? There's somebody else.
Woodland and Thorpe are right there too.
Yeah. Those are guys that I actually like. Like, you had them in your lineup already, and I like those plays. I'm talking about the names down here. Adam Scott, 6,500. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll fit the course. It's more of just the value of the name at the price. I think that's what keeps the ownership separated and spread out down in this range, because everyone's going to have their guy that they see value in.
What about Ricky?
I've got a little bit of interest, 6,300.
Yeah, and listen, you got that special invite next week to the PGA Championship. Maybe he feels like he needs to play well now.
Yeah, warm up a little bit. Show him what you got, Rick. Last time they told him he was overrated, he won the Players. The only problem is that's 10 years ago now?
I believe that was 11 years ago.
There you go. So, yeah, we'll remember that, but not everybody will. It just dates us, Pat. That's all it does.
You know what's funny? They were right.
That's correct. He proved them wrong that week, and then never after. He was the one thing that wasn't overrated was his high fives after other players win. So
And now Tommy Fleetwood is the Euro version of Ricky Fowler.
Which was hilarious to have that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Woodland, Higo. Fuck it, I'll do Cam Young. I'll throw him $6,200. Just and then I'll be. How is Max Homa still 65?
Yeah, that's the way he should be 6K flat, right?
Yeah, probably. I bet a head-to-head Thorbjornsen over him this week.
I like the Thorpe call. We could get dusted on this thing, but I certainly think he's playing better. And I like Alex's call out on your show that he had there, which was something that not a lot of people probably paid attention to because no one really cares or follows it heavy enough, but about him being sick earlier in the year and no one really knew about it. And it just took him longer than usual to bounce back from it. He's obviously super talented and we know this, but 6,400, no cut event, chance to put up a couple of those nuclear rounds that we talked about where just that's all that matters at 6,400. So I like that call quite a bit. Mind you, there's it's not like there's not options around him. What was your, we had the EVR comments conversation, but man, that graphic, I think Kyle Porter posted it of like this, what was it? Like 66, 67, 63, 65 loses to Scotty by 8.
That would be it.
EVR, my goodness, but 6,200. What do you think of him? No cut event.
I can see it, but it seems like people are like I'm looking at all the favorites tab. I know James always talks about that if you see someone like really popping in the favorites tab on Fantasy National, you know that people they have a lot of interest, whether they end up playing them or not. We don't know. Most of the time they end up doing it. And of all of these guys from the bottom, EVR stands out above all in that favorite tab.
So that's like a sneaky way, like DJ has talked about in the past. And you just mentioned, like you said, though, you can kind of peg it a little bit for what's actually going to get the little bit of steam on these guys. Again, they never get popped up to like 12, 15% very often anymore, but at least who's going to be the guy that people end up on there. Mind you, still a ton of ways to get different. Like I said, if he's your second 6K guy versus everyone that, that you think is going to play him, if it's, 7% or 6% of the field is mostly with Rory, etc. I think that's just a way that you can get different still, is just stack it up with other 6K guys down there, kind of like your original build if he's one of the guys on your agenda. So
objectively, I like Thorbjornsen and I like Jaeger in the 6K. Those would be my two favorite 6K guys. After that, I like Woodland. I'll use him. And then I'm going to take 3 shots. I'll go with Sam Stevens because no one seems to be using him, but he loves I think that although this is a shorter course in terms of yardage, you have to remember it's a par 70 for one thing, but he plays long courses really well that if we think the Bombers come through, I could see him doing pretty good. And he finished T3 last week. I think people forget about that. No one is using him because everyone's using Cole and Hoagie, whose skill sets I don't think match as well as Sam Stevens. And then I'll use Higo. I'll roll the dice on Cam Young at 62. Imagine 60. We always talk about, can you target the player that's currently $6,800 but might be $9,800 this time next year? Cam Young is the opposite of that.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I was waiting where that was going. I was going to say there's no chance I could see him being at 9,800 next year, but you're right. From the opposite perspective, totally agree. And isn't there, I know it's Philadelphia, it's not New York, not even close, but just to say it, isn't there some East Coast vibes with him as well? Could it be?
Maybe. And he tends, if this doesn't play as easy as maybe some people predict, he always has done his best work at more difficult courses.
Yeah, man.
I mean, he has an infinite amount of top 10s more than Joaquin Niemann does at majors.
There's nothing that feels good. That is true. Nice way to frame it. Perfect cherry pick. What would you get from this guy though, besides the distance and the core? I mean, it's tough, but yeah, I like the call for tournaments. High volatility, aggression. Can take that there, and I think you just try and pair him up differently. Try and use him. He's going to be different already, but I'm saying instead of just putting him with Rory, the most obvious, you could still build it a little bit differently as well, and maybe use him and one of Thor or Jaeger, and then be able to move off of Rory and build up 4 guys at the top that can sort of make up some of that. Because that's another thing too, Pat. It's a good spot to bring this up and tie it together. Is the win equity last week was all with Scotty. We knew it was impossible. You couldn't get 6 golfers to get together. Even if you were allowed to play the next 6 after Scotty, it wouldn't make up the win equity he had versus that field. Versus in this one, you can play 3 guys from the top still with 2 guys down low, pick it up that way, and just hope that one of Cam Young or Jaeger, if not both, for example, come through and absolutely crush. So how would you play that if you went Jaeger and Cam Young, not Rory? What would you do?
Let's see. Jaeger, Cam Young. Let's throw those in with no Rory. Jaeger. I mean, in fairness, I want to use Higo instead because I like Higo more than I like Young. And he's cheaper. So let's throw him in instead. We'll go Jaeger and Higo, and we'll erase everyone, and we won't be able to use Rory in this lineup. I think I would go Xander, Ludwig. I mean, I can use the three highest owned guys in my mind are going to be Rory, Connors, and Keegan. Do you disagree?
Man.
Like those, if they're not the top three, they'll be three of the top five.
Connors, you think is getting up there? I
do, because I think he falls in the perfect range where he is by far the best chalk option of those guys. I think people will look at Berger and for $200 more, they'll be like, I can just use Connors instead. Interesting.
Okay, I was just gonna say the opposite. I've got people going to Berger over Connors for like the split. They're both gonna be popular. I'm saying, but where they would choose to go, I think they would. It's not about saving the 200. I just think they'd feel better about it. But yeah, both should be popular, so I don't disagree. Fit them wherever. But yeah, the other one. Who's the third guy you said though?
I'm trying to figure that out right now.
Oh, you said Keegan.
How about this? Yeah, but Keegan doesn't fit with what I'm trying to do. I could fit him in. I'd bump Jagger down to Sam Stevens, I suppose. But I go Xander, Ludwig, Victor, Burns, Jagger, Higo.
And don't you think most people would use Spieth over Hovland here as well?
I think most people would use Spieth over Hovland, and I think that most people would use Keegan over Burns, and I can almost guarantee you that people would find a way to either get up to Thomas over Ludwig or just simply use Patrick Cantlay for a cheaper price.
And this lineup still allows us, the sickos, to play Cam Young at 6,200.
If you want to upgrade Higo to Cam Young, you can do it.
Yeah. So I don't mind it. I think that's fine. Yeah. Something like that is just an example. Obviously, you know, like you said up top, we're choosing not to use Rory in this lineup because most people that are going to have one low 6K guy, let alone we've got two of them. Most people are going to get to Rory for sure. So we were just looking at a way to build it differently. Do you want to build something like that with Rory, or what are you thinking?
Well, I want to build what I think that around a decent projection lineup will be. I think that Noren will carry weight and projection system still.
I think
depending on how people, and I said, I don't know what goes into every optimizer and how all of that works, but I would take the guess that players with better long-term form are just inherently going to pop because yes, like when you weight everything, you're going to compare the short line skill set to the long-term skill set. And if someone's diminished, it's not like when I do it, I tend to look at pretty, I don't want to say like recent, but past 24, maximum probably past 50 rounds of form coming in. Cause I find that recent form is more predictive. I know that the long-term analytics people tend to look more at the long-term form of those baseline skills. So I'm going to guess it's something like Rory and Thomas, Gerard, Noren, Scott, and Berger. I don't think that's going to be the chalkiest lineup, but I could see optimizers spitting that out.
Yeah. So for like one thing we forgot there too is like definitely Spieth is going to be up there. So like Rory Spieth is kind of a good starting point to look at.
Oh, here, do you want me to build you the chalk lineup of what I think is going to happen?
Yeah, that's what I was looking more for.
Rory, Spieth, Keegan. And then you get into that, we're just seeing everything gravitate towards certain people. I think that because of you get left with $6,900, I think this is where people click EVR, honestly.
Yeah, so I see again, like there's other guys there too. Gerard, who you had up there earlier, Eckroat, Bridgman, Thor, those guys. But if EVR gets the click, I mean, he's 6,200. So
yeah, he's cheaper, and it does seem people are just kind of circling the drains on him a little bit. I'm also seeing Keith Mitchell with a weird amount of ownership. Why?
So how much is he?
Mitchell?
So that builds the lineup then. So it's Rory, Spieth, Keegan, Mitchell, Pendrith, EVR.
Yeah.
That builds a version of it. Again, I think there's going to be some substitutions there, but it doesn't really matter. It's like, who's the guy that I said, oh, you could take EVR and Mitchell and go to Gerard, who I know people like, and then go up to Michael Kim at 7K. And it's basically the same projection.
Okay. So EVR up to, so what is it? EVR to who?
Gerard at 66.
And Keegan down?
Who did I change? Sorry. Let me see here. So I have Rory.
Oh, no. Then you go Keith Mitchell to Michael Kim.
Yes. Yeah, he's down 400, sorry, to Michael Kim. Yeah, you got it. That's the example.
I think I like that better. Listen, Keith Mitchell can go out and score on the scores. Keith Mitchell could very well be last in this field, knowing Keith Mitchell.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And then the other question too is like what really ends up happening to that 8K range? Because, well, Keegan, Connors, and Berger all appear popular on paper, you start to see like what do those builds really look like, because the Rory lineups don't really get to them unless you're building Rory with 2 8K guys.
And then, well, let's do that. Let's take Spieth out and put in Connors and see what happens.
So if you go Rory, Connors,
it gets us an extra $400, which means that we can either upgrade from like Gerard to Bhatia, or you take Pendrith. Actually, you take, wonder if I can finagle this. You take Keegan into Berger.
It's I think it's Connors to Berger, and then you
No,
get
Keegan into Berger, and then you go Pendrith down to Thorbjornsen. Then you have 76. I'm trying to grease the right wheels here. See if we can get Woodland. We're not quite there. I was trying to figure out a way to get Keegan into this as well.
So with the projections, which I have here, and the chalk, I can tell you what it is that you were close to.
Here we go. There it is. Rory, Connors, Berger, Keegan, Thorbjornsen, and Higo.
Keegan, Thorbjornsen. Yeah. And again, like I don't know what it'll be, but I think for sure people will play Eckroat over Higo, and Higo's your guy.
Sure. I'm saying because I'm going to enter these lineups, I'm going to use Higo.
Yeah, for sure. And just a note, because you have it there and you could probably change it quickly. The other version is where I say like the Berger thing comes into play. It's Rory, Berger, Bradley for the 2 8K guys. And then it allows you to close it out with what we had earlier of Pendrith, Michael Kim, and it lands you on Ben Griffin at 7,200. So
say it again. Rory,
Berger, Keegan. So it's Rory with 2 8K guys still, but no Connors. And then it closes out with Ben Griffin, Taylor Pendrith, Michael Kim, which 2 of those 3 were who we already had earlier. And now you just get a third option in there. And then people can do whatever they want with it. Some will take, that's the same. It's basically the same look here. Like you could go Berger to Spieth and Michael Kim down to Thor, for example, or Bridgman for the chalk eaters.
I think for this, I would go Michael Kim down to Jagger, and then I would take Griffin up. I just don't like Ben Griffin all that much this week. To Finau or Mitchell or Ben An.
So what have you got? Berger, Bradley are still in there, right?
Yeah, Rory, Berger, Bradley, Pendrith, and Jagger.
Keep Pendrith. Yeah, I'm good with that.
And throw in Finau, I suppose. See what happens.
Yeah, take your shot on Finau or Mitchell probably is how I would look at it.
I really like Rasmus at 7,000, by the way.
I'm good with that, too. You can also swap Pendrith to him.
Let's do that. Let's swap Pendrith to Rasmus, and then for 75, we can get Spawn, who I actually do like.
Yeah, I like that. Might as well play Spawn and Jagger together. It's the same as if you were playing Highsmith and Bridgman. Two of the same dudes that aren't the same dudes at all. But yeah, also just a note, all these project very similarly, even though there's some differences to them for sure. Like just who we're using. Like, for example, so many lineups will have 3 or more 7K guys, but very few of those combinations will have Rasmus and Spawn, let alone only 2 guys in the 7K range. So this would be a way to build it completely different while still using a popular Rory, Berger, and Bradley. And there's also some possibility that Berger and Bradley don't get to the numbers people think they do because of the overall roster construction, how easy it is just to build with 3 or 4 7K guys.
Well, how would you like to build the non-Rory lineups? What do you think the chalk non-Rory build is? Who were the first 2 guys in?
Is it going to be just JT and Spieth? I don't know.
Is it JT Spieth or Xander Cantlay?
I think it's, well, I guess I should say too, it's also could contain Morikawa. So it
could, but maybe it's Morikawa Spieth.
Yeah, it's Morikawa Spieth.
Because then you can really make those throwing Keegan.
Well, I'm throwing in like Pendrith, and then when you put Keegan, you can kind of still do Berger in 65 or Connors in 63.
Do you think that's how these lineups go, though? Do you think it is 5 respectable plays than a punt, or do you think that people try to balance it out from here?
Well, the only thing is, who do you think the balance options are? Like, that's my tricky is I don't see people going to, I guess you put Keegan in there as calling him part of balance. You do have 75-50. So then it gets pretty easy because then it's like pick your poison of Novak, Rye, Thompson, Spawn, Harmon, Mitchell, all those guys. So I don't know who you pick there. but that's probably what it looks like, Pat. Like, who's the guy from 76 to 79 that you see that stands out? Novak,
maybe Rose.
Okay, Rose, maybe. I think like Rye, Thompson, the projections guys that stand out more. And if you put those in, it's like, the projections say Ryan Mitchell is what rounds this lineup out. And it projects just as good as our best Rory lineup, for example.
I think it depends on what people want out of their lineups. Do you think that people are going to gravitate towards the bomber narrative?
Not enough for it to be a thing. Like, I do think a ton of people in the bubble are gravitating towards that because of what they've heard and seen, and the show that you did with you, even the show with you and Alex had almost, I think, 4,000, 5,000 views just on a Truist Championship week. It's because no one knows the course. There's a flyover. It's a guy that's won and actually played the event. And Alex, so if you haven't watched it, go back and do so. But I'm just saying, I think that there is going to be people in the bubble that lean towards that. But I think the information that we've picked up as the week's gone on is that it's not necessarily required, and you are able to mix and match in some of these position placement guys off the tee that can then get hot enough, I'll say, with the putter.
Because if that's the case, I think you take Novak out and go to Davis Thompson. And then I think that Wyndham Clark might get a bit more ownership as well if people do want to take bombers.
And then you go Benny.
Yeah. Or you can go up to Mitchell or Finau. I just like Ben An.
That's fine. Yeah.
Because I suck at this and use Ben An all the time. And he sucks.
It's kind of like balancing it out, though. If you have Ben An and he sucks, it's the whole point is you have Kawa, Spieth, Bradley, Tom. Like you got other guys that you feel good about in there, so you're not going too far.
Let's play the 2v2 with this, though. Let's take Ben An down to, I don't know,
Jaeger.
Yeah, let's see what Jaeger gets us. It's not enough, I don't think, because I was going to say, can we get back up to Novak? But it gets us into that short hitter range with Rye, Rose, Siwoo, Harmon, and Spawn. Like, if we're thinking about bombers, can we go a little bit lower than him?
Can we make Davis Thompson into Justin Rose? And just
no, because I want to stick with, like, if I'm going to go down the board, I'm going to use some guys. This is how it works. It's Davis Thompson, Stam Stevens, and Andrew Novak.
Instead of Jaeger.
Yep. You get the $100 break from Jaeger down to Stevens. Or you could say, screw it. If all these 6K guys are the same anyway, use the 61 guy that you like the best. I like Higo the best. And then you have another, you get back up to 884. You can have like McNeely, like everything we've talked about skill set wise. Burns, Wyndham Clark, and Minwoo really kind of fit the bill. I just don't know how much I really like any of those guys.
What about Sung J M at 8,400 right there?
That's your guy, not my guy.
That's the guy, not my guy. He should be everybody's guy. Sung J 8,400. That's the spot. So yeah, I like that lineup. We can land there. I don't know about like Higo versus Eckroat, but I think people will play Eckroat. But just here nor there, what was the three guys you just said that you're hard to get to, but you could see them all fitting it? It was Burns, Wyndham,
and Minwoo.
And Minwoo. What about if we just play those three?
Just start the lineups with those three?
And then put Rory.
I don't think Rory fits with those guys.
Yeah, you land on 7K.
Oh, do you really? So Pendrith fits that build, and so does Jaeger. So you could throw those two guys in immediately.
Pendrith, Jaeger, boom, close it out. Also, man, I just have a feeling here. Isn't the best spot to play Sahith in a no cut when he's $6,900?
I would say yes, but he has not shown the ability to do anything.
Just do something for 2 rounds out of the 4, and it could be enough. 6,900. I mean, this guy is the spot. I don't know. I feel like there's a few guys like that.
Well, here's the problem with Theegala right now is that his irons are so bad and his driving is so bad that it really gives him few outs. And it's not like in this field right now over the so far this season, he's 26th in driving distance. Like if he was 10th, I feel like he'd have more outs, but he's just getting himself in really bad spots.
That's the tricky here. So I guess the other thing then, Pat, is I would just skip out on Jaeger. And what about just playing Pendrith and Rasmus? Oh, you're $100 short.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Damn. I was really trying to get to that.
Let's take Pendrith out. Let's use Rasmus instead of Pendrith. And then you have your opportunity to use anyone at 69 or 70. So you have Theegala there. You have Michael Kim there.
Rasmus, Michael Kim. You literally just texted with him. He knows what's going on over there.
He didn't tell me he was going to win, unfortunately.
He's good enough to win. That's the thing. So we'll just see if he can put it all together here get it done this week. But
this is a really interesting Rory build, if nothing else.
Oh, it certainly is. That's what I mean. When people are going to Rory, I guess I should say this. What makes it an interesting Rory build is I always say it's not who you play, it's how you play them. In this case, it's who you play. There's tons of Rory builds that are going to have 4 7K guys, but not many that are going to have Rasmus, Wyndham Clark, Burns, and then when they do have to pick an 8K guy, it not be Keegan. This is one where you do land in kind of the same build. You could flip it to all the chalk, but we've just leveraged it completely while going within the same build, and that's a way to get different, even on a takeaway on Scotty weeks, right? Because people always struggle with Scotty weeks. Sometimes it's just the build that everyone's on, but not the guys that everybody's on within the build. And I think that's what makes this one interesting. So I like this. It's a good spot to go. And you and I have had a ton of battles of, is it this guy, or this guy? And somebody come back with like a 20K screenshot and be like, well, the answer was all of them. And you guys just couldn't figure it out. And I played all 3 together.
Let's build one more balance-wise, but retaining some win equity. Who's the lowest player on this board you think you can start with?
You can start with whoever you want. I think what people would do is start with Spieth and try and build down.
Ooh, okay. I don't want to do that. I like Henley. I like Henley more than Spieth.
Okay.
See, if you start with Henley, what does that get you? It gets you the average price now is just Keegan. So we throw Keegan in. Henley with Keegan and like a balance build. I don't really care about the ownership on Keegan at that point. Like we can build it up with the guys that everyone kind of likes from this middle range. So Henley, Keegan, Connors. I'm good with throwing like a guy at the bottom in here somewhere, depending on who it is. Like we both seem to like Jagger, right?
Yeah.
So let's throw in Jagger. That gets us back up to 84.50. Now that means we can go, I don't know,
McNeely and Hausier.
McNeely Berger?
Yeah. Project's good. It's just the win equity you're leaving off. And the tricky here too, Pat, is someone said this to me yesterday, and I came back to them. Obviously, this is a very different build. You have 4 8K guys, but the point is let's say Henley does win this thing. We both said it. We literally used him in one and done. Like we're hoping he wins it for that reason for sure. But Henley can win, and there's still so many lineups that will stack those guys on top of them that come 3rd, 2nd, 5th, 8th, whatever they do. There'll still be Henley lineups that had some
Rory,
at least one over the top of him that still did enough to make it work. And it's all then comes down to what the guys at the bottom do and what the 8K range actually ends up doing. But yeah, Berger and McNeely would round it out. If you want to really play for real, you would just put Sung J M obviously, and then land on Lowry and get completely different and have it still projects really well. These lineups do project good.
I actually like that better. Lowry, Sung J.
That looks like what the top of the leaderboard could look like. It's just a problem if the next group of guys sprinkled in are obviously Rory McIlroy and then whoever the 6K guys that show up or the other 7K guys that we don't have in here. And so your dream goes down. Something like a higher stakes, smaller field though, Pat, I wouldn't be fully against it because the setup of, again, if Rory gets even more popular in those, which he will, and then more of these low end guys dud or don't have good enough weeks, that's a bunch of the field now behind in a smaller field, and you're able to jump ahead with something like this as long as you end up getting something solid out of all 6 guys.
Xander Ludwig is how I want to end this. Try to build out this lineup. I think it's reminiscent of a lot of the ones that we've built already, but let's throw in some different guys here. Stevens. I mean, I haven't used Thorpe at all, and I bet him to win, so I should probably throw him in here.
Yeah, I was going to say him or Higo would make sense.
So I think it goes Connors Keegan actually. Is the end of this lineup. Let's see. Yep. It could be exactly enough money. 0 remaining. Xander, Ludwig, Bradley, Connors, Thorbjornsen, and Sam Stevens. Because I think that this start is the start that I'm going to go with most. It seems like very few people are using Ludwig here. Maybe one and done wasn't the opportunity for it. Maybe the betting market wasn't the opportunity for it. But I think that he can go out and score on this course.
That's what we're looking at here to see if we can make it happen. You liked Cantlay a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
If you swap Ludwig to Cantlay and Stevens up to Rasmus from what you've liked on the show and talked throughout, I kind of think that's interesting as well. And get the Cali. I mean, there's a bunch of Cali boys up there, but the two best friends that everybody loves, the Schauffele and Cantlay pairing, put them up top. Get Thorpe, Connors, Keegan, Rasmus. I mean, that's a solid build.
So what is it? Stevens to Rasmus and Ludwig to Cantlay?
Yep. And Rasmus could be your boy Michael Kim if you want to round it out with friend of the show. But either way, these types of builds are definitely more unique, different for this week. I think we're in a good spot. I think it sets up well, and there'll be lots of different angles people are taking to attack it. But these are ways to get different while still playing your guys.
And these don't project markedly worse than any of the other ones, do they?
No, they do not. That's the thing.
Okay, let's enter that one and take some questions from the chat, if there are any. I haven't looked at the chat in a while. Happy birthday to Cam Young. What? That's enough to make him anyway. You said there's a big $3 this week, 150 max?
Yeah, there is.
Should I max it?
Take your pool first and then give her a go. Yeah.
It's funny because I don't know what the top prize in that is. I would almost rather, like, if I'm going to play 150 in one of these like absolute lotto tournaments, it's just more fun for me to do it. That I'd rather just save the money and play the 50 cent.
Yeah, it depends what, everyone should just play what they're comfortable with. But I think the biggest mistake I see is for sure people that are like, okay, there's a $3 150 max that let's say it's in their budget. They can afford it and you can extrapolate it up or down, but they don't usually play 150 and they do it just because the contest came out. Like, it should go the other way. How do you feel about the tournament? What does your player pool look like based on your feelings? If you only like 20 golfers, yes, you could make a bunch of variations with 150 lineups, or you could play a nice 20 max and get it involved there, or you could play 3 high dollar lineups and spread them across in your best 3 lineups with using those guys. So I don't know. I think people do it all the wrong way, and contest selection, super important. Bankroll management is what keeps you in the game, but sort of feeling out the event first. Nothing says if your budget is 10 grand for the year, you have to equally divide it by all the golf weeks and play the exact same amount every single week. There is going to be edges and angles and things you feel better about. You should be attacking it on those weeks and holding back some on the other weeks.
For example, the Farmers Week when I won all the money.
Correct. You had an angle of attack and you took it and went with it, and it worked out quite well.
So here's a question from Matt. He's big on Keith Mitchell this week. Listen, a lot of people are going to be, he rates out third in my 24-round model. And I went through that on the research show. Mitchell bombs the ball, has gained strokes putting in 3 straight with plus approach numbers as well. That's great. He didn't play against any of these guys. He played against the field that Scotty dominated last week. That's who he plays against.
Yeah, we don't talk enough about it, but it's certainly a thing. That's the strength of field. Just in general, it's a huge factor. I've always said it forever, and it comes up all the time. And it's the guy crushed at the Mexico Open, this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden they play in a really strong field or a signature event or something like that, and everyone wonders why they bomb at 20% ownership. It's like, well, they weren't playing against this talent level on a course like this very, very much recently. So all those results you were counting as the gospel, they were at birdie fests against weaker fields.
Who else here? How many birdies does I don't know. Oh, this guy's just commenting. He's commenting on lineups that we built like 20 minutes ago. I have no idea what that
came in close to the clutch. So I saw when that popped up. He's asking about the Xander, Cantlay, Thor, Connors, Bradley. I think the worry would be like, can those guys get hot with a putter? And that's the trick.
Yeah, but the angle for that lineup is that it doesn't play as easy as other people think it's going to play.
Right. That's exactly it.
That the winning score is -12, not -19.
Yeah, you got the grinders in there, and you got the guys that could get hot with the putter and pick up a couple of those rounds. But if not the low nuclear rounds that I've been talking about, it could just be the rounds that are needed to move themselves up the board, and then you get those position placements that matter as well. So I like that call from that perspective, Pat. And I think a lot of those lineups should be built like that. Even the Keith Mitchell comment that came up before, well, if that's what you're thinking, because we don't know the course, exactly how it's going to play out. We've learned a lot about it, but that's the key. That's why we talk about the skill set lineups, because it's kind of like, if it plays this way, let's go for that way. But what happens is too many people commit to one way, and then other ways leave openings and advantages that you can take, that you can use for your advantage.
McNeely has been showing good form. That's fine. I'm not a big McNeely guy at that price point.
Did you see the other comment?
What?
Who had the shitty underwear last week? Did you see this story?
No.
Oh, they found a pair of underwear that had shit stains in it in one of the porta potties off one of the holes. And it was a brand that there is a brand ambassador for, but they proved that it wasn't his somehow. And so now they're just trying to get to the bottom of this and figure out who had the shitty underwear. And Jim Berm is still trying to confirm.
Who was the person that was associated with this brand?
They didn't even give that. They didn't. So you'd have to look like who has underwear brands. You have underwear brands as sponsors, but you weren't.
Skim. I'm wearing my Skims right now.
Yeah.
Very, very comfortable.
That's the key, Pat. We had this, what was it? The Skim saggy, Skim shitty. Oh, it could be like the Skim shitty picks of the week. Like that's the theme that we used last time was the saggy saggy bag, I think. But this is the difference maker. So I don't know who had them, but that was a storyline this week in golf. Tells you what.
It can't be that difficult to figure out how many PGA Tour players who played in the event last week would have an underwear sponsorship.
Yeah. Or, well, maybe they didn't. Maybe they're big fans and secret fans of the ambassador who does have the brand, and they were just wearing them, and you would never know. Could be anybody.
Here's why an underwear. Saks is the one that PGA Tour caddy signed an endorsement deal too. Interesting.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
maybe-
I saw there were some caddies that were sponsored by, I think it was Saks, right?
So it's probably a caddy.
Yeah, it was. Thought they'd get away with it. Nobody would catch on to the caddy. Talk about a caddy shack, man. Just putting a stinky underwear in a shack in a porta potty.
I'll ask Rathouse, see if he knows who it was. Like, got the inside info on it.
It could be. Yeah, this is a good show. I like this. I'm still pretty high on this event, even though it's right before a major, and some people aren't always into that type of stuff. Anytime there's a new course like this, and we've got a no cut with some fun that we can do on the lineup construction, all of that, it's usually a really good show. And I thought this one was great.
Was there any Myrtle Beach tournament worth playing? Didn't look like it.
I played like 10 lineups. It was 5K to first, and just wanting to get a few of the guys in there. You could basically play the Pat Mayo special over there with like Rico Hoey and all the guys that you like. But realistically, that's all I did is I looked at the newsletter and I played some of the guys you were on for betting, and I mixed in some of the other takes from around the industry and stuff, and just played that for some fun.
Where's Cam Champ? Cam Champ 72. Does that give me Norman? Oh yeah, there's the lineup. Kevin Yu, Hoey, Valimaki, Cootie, Champ, Norm. The 6 guys that I bet. Let's go. I didn't bet Hoey, but
that's the lineup I built. I definitely have that one because I was just building off the newsletter, and 5 of the bets are in there, and it landed on one of your guys. I think it was Hoey. So I was like, okay, I got to do this. But or whoever you didn't bet of the 5 was the other one it landed on.
What do you think the ownership will be for Justin Thomas and Denny McCarthy? I'm guessing Denny's probably not going to get too high, although he fits your he's from Maryland, so it's not like the Northeast, but it's closer to the Northeast than I would put that general style of golf more in line with what we're going to see in Pennsylvania than what we would see in South Carolina or Florida. So maybe it seems like he's wildly being overlooked, and he does tend to play these difficult courses well because he putts so well.
That's what it is. We talked about this model earlier, if you will, of the guy that's just going to position placement off the tee, find the green or whatever he needs to do, and then be able to make the putts and then tilt everybody who's not on him because, of course, he's making every 40-footer. So that would make sense. And Matt brought up a good point. It actually was, we talked about him a lot this show, but your boy Michael Kim, he was the one who brought up the shitty underwear story on X.
Awesome. I've been weirdly not on X as much recently as you might think.
Okay.
Trying to do less phone time, and part of that is just not being on Twitter all the time.
Combining a lot of things, less coffee, less phone, less screen time, less phone time.
I turned 40. What do you want me to do?
Getting old, guys. He's getting old. That's what it is. Yeah.
Well, it also perfectly coincides with the return of golf season. I've now been at 3 times that I just don't look at it unless my watch blows up with I still have my watch on. So if someone calls me, then I know if someone's calling me, I assume it's important. But if no one is calling me, I can see text pop up on that and just take a look to see if I want to respond or not. But generally speaking, I do not pull my phone out of my bag.
My version of that is because I have so many notifications turned on that when I'm zoned out, like what you're saying, sort of, and just not really interested, is just seeing that there's 90 new notifications and just swiping them and clearing all and saying, I don't really care what they are for this time of day or what I'm doing this day. It's not going to make or break it. So I just leave it.
What do we think that Thomas is going to be? Let's finish with this. We had to rank the ownership of the top Ludwig and up. Actually, just even the top 4 guys. Because Ludwig, I will tell you, Ludwig will be by far the lowest owned of the top 5 guys, right?
Right.
So Rory, then who do you think in ownership? Because they're all pretty flat in terms of what I'm seeing.
I think it's interesting that we could just see it in order.
I think Thomas ends up second, then Colin, then Xander.
I was just going to say what's possible because where that 500 can be made up is through JT. It is possible. JT in a no cut, JT just getting a win, all these factors. But Morikawa at 10.5 is part of the other, thing of the bad pricing with Rory only at 12. Well, it is a $1,500 difference. I think it's crazy how you can build some lineups with, we didn't even talk about this one, but Colin and JT, for example. You can build 2 10K guys, mix Xander in there if you want. But I definitely think it's Rory first, Ludwig 5th, and Xander 3rd. Or sorry, 4th. I just don't know who comes in 2nd and 3rd between Morikawa and JT. That's how I see it.
And they're all pretty good plays. I'm probably going to play Rory, Ludwig, Xander, and just leave off Morikawa and Thomas and hope they don't win.
Yeah, I like JT more than you, but I'm,
listen, I like him fine. I like Morikawa fine, but if I'm not going to play 150 lineups this week, I might play like 20. So I really need to start taking guys out of my pool.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, what you have a lot riding on Xander this week. You like him at 10-2 and you like the bet, so it should add up. We'll see.
Yeah, Bambi, is it possible to play Rory with Xander? I don't think like your lineup would suck, right?
I think it's like Rory, Xander. You have 7K almost, so it's fine.
No, you could probably get away with that. I mean, we could find ways to get away with that if we really wanted.
People can just plug in all the guys we talked about. You don't have to go further than Jaeger, for example, even. So if you like someone lower, Thor or something like that, you're right back into the same zone of all the same guys. Definitely can be done.
That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Tambo and I will be live next week for the PGA Championship. I'm super excited for the PGA Championship. I'm really into this week too. It's just I am hesitant to invest too much money into it. But sometimes that's fine because I'm actually interested in watching it as well.
Yeah, I'm more interested in watching it, this event, just because it's a new course. You love seeing that sort of stuff. Definitely excited for that factor. Every major is a good major. Love seeing it back the way we've had it going lately with some of these events and with Bryson in the mix and now Rory getting the Grand Slam and Scotty getting a W. Everything, it's going to be a really good major. So I'm excited, even though it's definitely, like everybody, the worst major of the bunch of the four, at least for me. I think for most, but yeah, I'm still super excited for that as well.
So smash the like while you're here. Leave the 2 6K guys that you like the best in the comment section the moment that we wrap things up. Sub to the newsletter. That'll be coming out later tonight. And guess what, Tambo? Tomorrow, me, Kenny, Joe, player by player, PGA Championship breakdown.
Yeah, they should have the pricing out soon here. So hopefully they get the job done for you.
We got the odds for it anyway. It's fine.
That's right. All right. Awesome.
All right, man. ShipItNation.com. Code Mayo works over there as well, just like DFSMastermind.com if you want to check out more of Tambo's stuff. I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.